Good evening, everyone, depending on where you are in the world. It is Wednesday today, and we are back for another Confidence Convo. This is season 2, episode 10, and this week we are diving into the 10 best practices for lasting confidence. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Davina Maria, and I am a master coach and founder of the Restore Yourself Method and host of Worthy Women Facebook group. And I help female go-getters in their 30s develop unshakable confidence so they can powerfully step into their limitless potential. Over to you, Joanna.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Davina. My name is Joanna Tonkin. I'm a registered psychotherapist and a confidence coach. I work with young adults to help them improve their self-confidence so that they can become successful. Davina and I got together to create this for you because we are obsessed with the power of learning together, and we appreciate learning with our community.
And just to clarify, we are not perfect at being confident all of the time. Just like you, we move through our struggles and overcome obstacles and mindsets to continuously improve. So just think of us as guides by your side.
Yeah. This episode today is very bittersweet for both Davina and I, as it is going to be our last episode for now, as we both switch gears to focus on some new projects. So we thought we would go out with a bang and make today's episode extra special with posting the 10 best practices that we've discussed over the past year and a half to share an overview of what you can expect and what you have heard in our previous episodes. It was really hard to narrow it down. I don't know about you, Davina, but I found it was really challenging to get this list down to 10, but we did our best.
Yeah, totally.
Here it goes.
Okay, so the first tip that we have is that none of us are born feeling confident. We develop confidence over time and through a specific set of skills and mindset shifts. So a lot of the time, the way that we think will affect the way that we behave and kind of like the skills that we can pick up and learn. And these skills, the more we do them, the more we practice these skills, we get more confident because we become more competent. So there's something called a competence confidence loop, which we have discussed before in previous episodes. And basically, it means that the more you do something, the more you practice it, and the more proficient you become, the more confident you become, and more competent you become. And it's a bit of a cycle. And I think we spoke about it in a recent episode when we spoke about driving. And that's an example that I can use. When you first start driving, you don't know a lot about how to kind of get going and what you need to do. But the more you practice driving, the more competent you become. And the more competent you become at driving, the more confident you feel on the road, the more confident you feel driving on your own. So, yeah, that was just a little reminder that, you know, if you don't feel confident all of the time, it's absolutely okay. Just keep practicing.
Mm-hmm. And action really overcomes fear. So even if you're feeling afraid or anxious or worried about starting something new, doing it, even if you're bad at it, even if it's not exactly as you want to, that will help you overcome the fear, improving your confidence and your competence.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So number 2, confidence is about getting to know and to trust yourself. So I say this all of the time. You cannot be confident in someone or something that you don't know and that you don't trust, right? Think about you can't be confident in a politician if you don't know them, if you don't trust what they're saying. You can't be confident in a friend if you don't know them well enough and you don't trust that they're going to be true to their word. So confidence is really about getting to know and getting to trust yourself. And how do we build trust in ourselves? First of all, like I said, we get to know ourselves. But second of all, we trust ourselves. And this is really important. This came up in a bunch of episodes. And I think Ree, one of our guests, said it best, and I'm going to quote her again if that's okay. She said, "Your word is law." And I think that's super powerful because if you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, you start to believe that you yourself are untrustworthy, right? So if you're going to say you're going to do something, whether it's brushing your teeth every night, whether it's exercising, whether it's putting yourself out there for dating, whatever it is that you say that you're going to do, make sure that you actually do it, because if you don't, you're teaching yourself that you can't be trusted. And how can you become confident in someone that you can't trust, right?
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, If you don't think you're going to do it, don't say that you're going to do it. It's that simple, right? If you don't think you're going to be able to brush your teeth every night, don't say that you're going to do it 7 nights a week. Maybe say that you're going to do it 3 nights a week and give yourself that small goal to work towards, right? So do what you say and say what you do. And if you're not going to do it, just don't say it.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like that kind of links very well. I think these are all linked, but I feel like it links very nicely to the first tip, because I feel like the more you do what you say you're going to do, the more kind of trusting you have in yourself, the more confident you are, and also the more competent you are. You know, even things like going to the gym. If you've never been to the gym before, the more you do that, and the more that you say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, the more you do that, you build trust in yourself. And it's then the kind of confidence cycle as well. So I think they kind of like link together very, very, very nicely.
Absolutely.
And number 3, this one I think also links very nicely to number 2, is that confidence is an inside job. So you can't outsource your confidence. And when we say an inside job, it kind of means you have to do the inner work. Sometimes you have to kind of go it alone. And sometimes you have to just, say what you're going to do and do it. You have to kind of build the competence confidence cycle. And the fastest way to kind of do that and build a good relationship with yourself is self-care. That's part of the inner work. It's part of the loving yourself so much that you take care of yourself, and that then overflows into your life, into your relationships, into your working kind of relationships as well. And in one of the self-care episodes, I think we spoke about the 5 self-care buckets. And this basically means that there are different types of self-care. So you can kind of do physical self-care, which is like, working out, going for a walk, moving your body. You could do emotional self-care, mental self-care, social self-care, spiritual self-care. So sometimes we're really good at one bucket. Sometimes we work out 5 days a week. And maybe we're not so good at the spiritual bucket. Maybe we don't kind of have a spiritual practice, or, maybe sometimes we're not that good at meeting our own emotional needs, or, speaking up for ourselves, or learning new things. So self-care is a really good way to kind of in-source your confidence, fill up your cup, make sure that you feel great all the time. And yeah, I definitely think that kind of links into number 2, because the more you feel great, the more you can kind of trust yourself, because you're taking care of yourself, and it's sort of like a little tsunami of, confidence, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, self care is my favorite thing. It's how I learned, all about myself and who I am. So if I could give, even one piece of advice from today's session or from today's talk, it's if you want to get to know yourself a little bit better, try to overwhelm yourself, if that's a good way to put it, with self-care.
Yeah.
Really learning what you like, really learning what you need in order to fill up your cup to be the best version of yourself that you want to be, because that really is the ultimate goal, right? Feeling your best, being your best, and living the life that you want.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Number 4, defining your version of success. And we had an episode all about defining your version of success, because we think it's really important, right? Success for everybody can be different. For some people, it can be getting the job. For some people, it can be making money. For some people, it can be raising a family. For some people, it could be moving to a different country, right? Everybody might have a different version of what they call success. And it's important for you as an individual to identify what your version of success is, right? Because once you know kind of where you want to go and what that looks like to you, then you can start taking small steps, right? Achieving small goals to get yourself closer to that version of success. When you know where you're going, again, you can start focusing on some beneficial habits that will take you closer to those goals. So let's say your goal is to get a promotion at work, right? That's your version of success. What do you need to do in the short term to start working towards that goal? Maybe it's participating more in work meetings. Maybe it's contributing more in group assignments and group projects. Maybe it's taking on more tasks, right? Maybe it's networking with the right people, right? So kind of thinking about what the small goals are that are going to help you achieve these big goals will only be possible once you know exactly what you want and what that version of success looks like.
Yeah, I love this one actually because I feel like we spoke about clarity in one of our very early episodes. I think this links in very closely to this one because I feel like defining your version of success is gaining your own clarity. And it's part of doing the inner work to a degree because you're not looking at what anyone else is doing. You're not thinking about what anyone else is doing. You're focusing solely on yourself, what you want to achieve, where you want to be, and what will make you feel successful. Because I feel like a lot of people hear the word success, they think about money, they think about a job, they think about, a wedding or, things like that. And sometimes success is a feeling. Sometimes it's just, do you know what? When I do this, I feel successful. Therefore, I'm going to do more of that. So, yeah, I love this tip. It's amazing.
Yeah, awesome.
So number 5, a beginner's mindset. So this, I think, was again one of our earlier episodes, and we spoke about the benefits of remaining in a beginner's mindset. So being okay with being new to something, being a beginner at something, because technically, even as we go through life, there will always be things that we're new at that we've never done before, or maybe we've done them a very long time ago. We haven't done them, for years, and we're kind of like nervous or anxious or, a little bit unsure of how to go about things. And I think, having that beginner's mindset and allowing yourself to be new at something, allowing yourself to potentially suck at something, and kind of keeping your mind open and curious so that you're learning as you learn. Basically, you're learning about yourself as you learn and as you go through the new things that you're doing. And you're not so focused on failing, you're more focused on growing. So I think when you have a beginner's mindset, you're very open to kind of falling down, getting back up again, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And you wouldn't define those things as a failure, or you wouldn't give up, you wouldn't quit. You would keep going because you're curious about, what it is you're trying to achieve, why you're trying to achieve it, why didn't it work? Maybe I should try this, maybe I should try that. And I think, a beginner's mindset is just the way to kind of approach anything, whether that is, you're dating again for the first time in years and years, or let's imagine you've just broken up from, in your relationship, you just had a breakup and you just don't know how to be single again, or, you started a new job. Again, even though you might have done the role in a previous company, it doesn't mean that you know everything about this company and the colleagues that you have in your current role. So having a beginner's mindset will be valuable in many, many stages of life.
I think you nailed it and covered that one. Thank you. Yeah. Number 6, always measure backwards. This is from one of my favorite books, The Gap and the Gain. Really important. So kind of ties back into that, what is your version of success? Because that barometer of what success means can always be moving. And in the book, I think they describe it as walking through the desert, trying to get to the horizon, right? But the more that you walk towards the horizon itself moves, right? So measuring yourself against your successes that have yet to be achieved is called being in the gap. It's in the lack. It's what you want and what you don't have, right? And that brings with it a kind of energy, right? A kind of feeling of like, I don't have what I want. How come I can't get what I want? Maybe some like hopeless, helpless thoughts, right? Or maybe I'm not good enough thoughts. And that can be really discouraging. So what the book recommends is to always measure backwards. Very simple, right? So if you're walking through the desert and you're trying to get to the horizon, how do you know how much progress you've made, right? You turn around, right? You measure yourself from where you're standing now to where you started. Maybe it was that hut or that house or that hotel, right, that you slept at that night. And how far you've come from that place is really the progress that you're making towards your success, right? So turning around, measuring yourself against from who you are today to who you were a week ago, 6 months ago, 10 years ago, is how we're going to measure our success, right? So measure yourself in the gain, all that you've gained in your experiences and your trials and your tribulations, by looking backwards at who you were versus looking forwards at who you want to be.
Yeah, I love this one. I think this is such a powerful tip when it comes to confidence, because I think a lot of the time we get really stuck in what we don't have, or I'm working towards something and it's not happening quickly enough, or I set a goal that I wanted to do whatever by this date and this date has come and I haven't done it. And I think we can get really discouraged and feel like we're failing. And I think it's really easy to give up if, like you said, you're looking at the horizon and it keeps moving. Whereas if you turn around and look backwards, even if you're not where you want to be, you can look back and say, well, I've achieved this and I've achieved that and I've achieved, and there's like little milestones that maybe you can pick up and celebrate. And that celebration will then kind of spur you on to keep going. And I think it links in really nicely. I know you've mentioned the version of success. I think it links in really nicely to a beginner's mindset as well, because if you're in the gap, you're always in a place that maybe feels on some level quite uncomfortable. And having that beginner's mindset and being curious and being open is going to get you a lot further than feeling like you haven't hit your goal and you're not where you need to be. And I think even when I say it, I can kind of feel it in my body when I say, I haven't hit my goal. That has a very different like bodily feeling to thinking about it from an open and a curious mind of, it's okay, this is what I have done. So yeah, focusing on the haves and not the have-nots. I love it.
Exactly.
So number 7. Number 7 is an interesting one, I think, because I think a lot of the things that we talk about are mindset related. And number 7 is embodying confidence through your body. And this is maybe something we've not actually touched on a huge amount, but it's so important as well, because a lot of the time we can live in our heads, we can think everything all the time, maybe even overthink, ruminate on things. And I think we forget sometimes to kind of embody the confidence and know things that we've learned, but not just know them in our heads, know them in our bodies. And, confidence is also energy. As much as it's self-trust, it's also an energy. And, a lot of people, I think, forget that. So when you are really self-trusting, when you have the full confidence in yourself, it will become magnetic. And that energy will be felt before you even say anything to anyone. Mm-hmm. And in order to kind of embody the confidence, there's a number of tips and tricks that we can obviously give you, which we won't go into like a full, episode today. But, things like visualizations, especially, for example, if you're preparing for, let's imagine, a presentation at work and you're really nervous about it and you don't know how it's going to go. You've practiced, but you're just at that point now where you've got to go and do it. And I think sometimes the doing is where we can embody what we've learned, because we know that we need to have really good posture. We know that maybe we need to wear clothing that is communicative of what we want to be, whether that's, someone powerful, whether that's someone approachable. You would do your hair a certain way. Maybe you would speak a certain way, depending on the audience that you're communicating to. So I think a lot of the time we do forget that sometimes we have to stop learning and start doing. And I think embodying confidence is all about the doing. And to some degree, I think going through the fear and the kind of anxiety sometimes and just being like, I know what it is I need to do. Let me just do it. And then back to the whole confidence cycle. The more you do it, the better you feel about it, and life is good.
Yeah, I was going to kind of relate it back to the confidence loop as well. So that makes a lot of sense to me. One of the tips that we did share in that episode, I believe, was if you don't know what confidence looks like, find someone in your life that exudes confidence, right? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they dress? How do they carry themselves? What kind of things do they say? What kind of things don't they say, right? And use role modeling in that instance, and just kind of for yourself, learn how to, emulate that and then become your own version of that confident self.
Yeah, 100%. I think now that you've said that, you've reminded me of that episode. And I think we also said something like, think about the version of you that you want to be in the future, your future self, and then act as if. So yeah, I love that one. I love it.
Number 8, remember that what others say has nothing to do with you. This is so important because we are conditioned from a young age to be listening to the people and the voices around us. And
Mm.
often those people and those voices can misguide us, can misrepresent what the world is and how we should feel about our surroundings and ourselves. So sometimes it's really important to listen, to learn from the people around us. And other times we have to remember that what they say has very little to do with us and has more to do with how they feel about themselves and how they feel about the world, right? So depersonalizing criticisms from friends and family members, from coworkers, from bosses, right? It's not necessarily about you. There's not necessarily something wrong with you in the work that you're doing or the version of yourself that you're presenting. It could just be them having a bad day or them needing,
Mm.
to give you feedback so that you can become more competent in whatever it is that you're doing or learning, right? So life is an experience of learning, an experience of growing. I think I've said it many, many times already, but the purpose of life is to grow. So as long as you're growing in whatever way serves you, that means you're doing your job. So we can always grow, we can always do more, we can always do better, but you're doing fine just the way that you are. And so remember that other people's feedback has really little to do with you and more to do with how they feel and maybe what they need from you in a certain day or time.
I feel like the more we kind of go through these tips, the more I'm like, oh, this one is amazing. I feel like, yeah, they're all so lovely and they're just all so powerful. But this one I feel is one of the biggest ones because I know we spoke last episode about triggers. And I think that, sometimes people can say or do things that would trigger you. And I think, we're not going to again go into too much detail, but if you have certain attachment styles, you might take it really, really personally. And you might internalize that and make it mean something about you. You kind of tell yourself a story that, oh, they've ignored me or they've said it like that because I am. And you kind of then relate it back to your identity. And it can become a whole cluster of things. And I think this tip is powerful to kind of declusterize, if that's a word, all of that stuff. Because if you can just again embody this and think about it I use this weekly. I'm not going to lie. I use this every single week without fail because it's so easy to get into your head about what people have done and what people have said. And in actual fact, like you've just said, sometimes they're just having a bad day. They might have stuff going on. They've maybe responded or reacted in a way that's not ideal. And you could also react to that, and then they could react to that, and it could become a whole thing. Whereas if you just say, do you know what they've said or done has absolutely nothing to do with me. I am still whole. I am still amazing. I am still worthy, and just move forward with your day. I think it's that's a really powerful one.
Totally.
And then number 9. This is one of my favorites as well. They're all my favorites. So self-compassion is your superpower. We have spoken about self-compassion so much. I think we may have even mentioned it on every single episode, potentially, because self-compassion is huge. And, a lot of people maybe don't know what self-compassion is. And the way that I describe it is it's the sense of being okay. In whatever moment you are in, it's okay. It's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to struggle with whatever you're struggling with. It's okay to find things difficult. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to kind of just be present in the moment and experience whatever it is that you are currently experiencing. And you don't have to make yourself wrong for that. I think a lot of the time we go through things in life and we make ourselves wrong. Oh, I shouldn't be saying this. I shouldn't be doing that. We apologize for things we shouldn't be apologizing for. And sometimes we just need to have a little bit more self-compassion and think, do you know what? Considering the circumstances, it's understandable that you feel angry. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to be angry in this moment. And let's work on kind of processing the anger rather than suppressing it. I know in one of the episodes we spoke about suppressing things and it pops up like a beach ball in water. I think self-compassion is kind of the antidote to that. It's the de-escalation of when you suppress emotions, when you should yourself into doing or not doing what you want to do, and when you kind of go against your own confidence, you go against your own kind of authenticity. I think self-compassion is literally the superpower against all of that. You can literally just sit in any moment and say, I'm okay, regardless.
Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite things for self-compassion, because we often have a lot of compassion for other people, maybe in our lives, friends, families, workers, etc. If you can't find that self-compassion for yourself, ask yourself, if a friend, if a family member or coworker or someone that I know is going through what I'm going through, how would I behave? What would I say? What would I do? Right? And then offering that same love and that same compassion and care back towards yourself.
Yeah. And I think this is part of the inner work that we spoke about earlier in one of the previous tips. I think it also links very closely to like always measuring backwards because, sometimes we have the inner critic who will tell us things about ourselves that are not true, and it will say the word should and it will shame us. And I think sometimes self-compassion also kind of links very closely with gratitude because you can kind of be in the moment and say, do you know what? I feel angry and I'm going to process that. And it's okay to feel the way that I feel. And I think you can, in that moment of self-compassion, also have some gratitude for whatever it is that is amazing in your life. And that can kind of also take the edge of the anger or the edge of the anxiety or the edge of whatever it is that you're going through. I think this is a huge one in the inner work. I think this is a powerful one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can be having an uncomfortable experience and I can be still grateful for what I do have, right? Kind of like the gap and the gain. I still have ways to go from where I want to be, but I can still measure backwards, turn around, and see how far I've come and be really grateful.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. And finally, number 10, understanding and mastering your emotions. So we describe emotions as energy in motion. And it's really important to understand your emotions when, learning to be confident because your emotions can get in the way, right? If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling afraid or worried, any type of uncomfortable emotion can really prevent you from feeling your most confident self. So really understand what emotions are. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not positive or negative. They just are. They're just feelings, right? And so when we kind of normalize that we're going to have uncomfortable emotions while we're trying to build the competence to become more confident, it really kind of takes the judgment away from ourselves. And we stop ourselves for feeling anxious or feeling afraid when trying something new because of course you're going to feel that way. Like it would be more surprising if you didn't feel more anxious or more afraid when you're trying something for the first time or the second time or you haven't mastered it yet, right? So really just getting comfortable with your emotions, saying that it's okay to feel the fear and do it anyways, as Suzanne Jeffers writes about in her very popular book. But really just taking the time, get to know your emotions. If you can do the work on your own, great. If you need the support from a coach or a mentor or a therapist, like that's cool too. But really, it's a skill that we're not taught in grade school. It's a skill that most of us don't have when we become adults and we're working towards some of these goals. So if you can get support or do it on your own to really understand what your emotions are and what they're trying to tell you and how they're trying to help you, you can become a master of your emotions, which can really help you when you're trying to build lasting confidence.
Yeah. I love that one. That's one of my favorites again. I think it links really nicely into the self-compassion because again, if you're feeling an emotion, you don't need to kind of make it good or bad. You can just feel it and be okay in the moment. And I love it. I love all these tips actually. I think they are such a nice summary to kind of close off episode 10 of season 2. And I think we've got some really powerful things in here to kind of manage confidence and how we feel on a day-to-day basis.
Totally. And we really hope that you've enjoyed watching the last year and a half of the Confidence Convo podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here learning, growing with you and from you, both Davina and our community. So I just want to thank you, Davina, for your devotion, for your commitment to starting this podcast with me. It's been so fun planning and executing and learning with you this past year and a half. And also a huge shout out from both Davina and I to our amazing community whose comments, whose insights, whose feedback we've learned so much from and we've appreciated receiving over the course of this podcast. This is not goodbye. It's definitely see you later. It is just the beginning for us, and we can't wait to show you what more we have in store for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And thank you so much. I think, you know, going back to kind of all of the tips that we've just kind of gone through when we started this podcast, we were beginners. We didn't know what it was going to look like, how it was going to turn out. And, it's been such a long time compared to what we thought it would be. And it's been, I second what you said about it being fun. It's been absolutely great to kind of plan topics and, talk about things and kind of serve our clients and our listeners so that we kind of spread the love of confidence and make sure that everyone kind of feels more confident day to day. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see what we do moving forward. But yeah, for more information on who we are, what we do, and our love of all things confidence and self development, you can find or follow us from our social media information, which will be posted below in the comments. We will also try and link the kind of episodes that are relevant to each tip so that you can watch those in more detail, where we kind of go through each of the tips in a little bit more detail. And if you like what you've heard, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. And I'm sure we will see you soon.
Thank you so much. It's been an amazing journey. We'll